Welcome to the first installment of the Pearl Institute's Psychedelic Biography series, where we honor the pioneers, innovators, and risk-takers who have contributed significantly to our understanding of psychedelics as tools for growth and healing. Psychedelic compounds have been used for millennia and have been valued, respected, and protected in indigenous cultures and ancient civilizations, where they were used for celebration, divination, healing, rites of passage, and other forms of social and spiritual ceremonial functions. However, the history of psychedelics in our modern Western culture has been quite different and has been disproportionately affected by fear, misunderstanding, and ignorance. There is an unfortunate ongoing prohibition against legal and safe access to these compounds from our government, pharmaceutical, academic, and medical systems. Even though there is very encouraging evidence that psychedelics could have tremendous value as tools for a deeper understanding of the brain and behavior, and as medicines to help address some of our culture's most difficult social and mental health challenges. Many of the men and women that we will be exploring in this series are extraordinary individuals who have pursued their work despite the challenges that come with trying to advance human knowledge that challenges predominant paradigms and beliefs. The subject of our first biography is Dr. David Nichols, an 80-year-old pharmacologist and medicinal chemist from northern Kentucky who has devoted most of his professional life to the study of psychedelics and their neurochemistry in the brain and how they influence behavior. He was one of the first scientists to do extensive systematic research into MDMA in the early 1980s, and he may know more than any human on the planet about LSD in the brain, while creating a veritable alphabet soup of psychedelic compounds that is only rivaled by the late, great pharmacologist Alexander Sasha Shulgin. David Nichols is considered to be one of the world's most foremost experts on the medicinal chemistry of psychedelics, and the Pearl Institute is excited and honored to be able to present this look into his life and his work. David Earl Nichols was born on December 23, 1944, in the northern Kentucky town of Covington, a town with a population of 63,000, which is located just south of Cincinnati, Ohio, at the confluence of two rivers, the Ohio River and the Licking River. A fascination with pyrotechnics as a boy led to an interest in chemistry, and he eventually assembled a home laboratory where he could explore further his curiosity about the properties and behavior of matter. After graduating high school, Nichols attended the University of Cincinnati, where he earned a bachelor's degree in chemistry in 1969. He then attended the University of Iowa, where he became interested in psychedelics and worked extensively with mescaline, and earned his PhD in medicinal chemistry in 1973, and then continued his postdoctoral work in pharmacology at the Iowa School of Medicine. He went on to teach at Purdue University in West Lafayette, Indiana, where he researched medicinal chemistry and molecular pharmacology for many years and held the position of Robert C. and Charlotte P. Anderson Distinguished Chair for over 38 years. Nichols also taught medical students for many years at the Indiana University School of Medicine. He has published to date 294 journal articles and 31 book chapters, mainly describing the relationship between the structure of a molecule and its effects on the human brain and biology, and much of this focuses on psychedelics. In 1982, he began to study MDMA and its effects, and this was before most people had even heard about MDMA. A couple of years later, when a young man with a vision named Rick Doblin realized that MDMA was in the crosshairs of the DEA and that this promising therapeutic aid was about to be made illegal, David Nichols was the chemist that he approached and recruited to synthesize a large amount of MDMA. Interestingly, this batch of MDMA that Nichols made in 1984 was the same MDMA that was used in MAPS's FDA-approved Phase 1 studies in the mid-1990s, and the Phase 2 studies from 2004 to 2017 that looked at MDMA-assisted therapy as a treatment for PTSD. Not only was Nichols' MDMA of exceptional quality, but it also proved to be incredibly stable over time. David Nichols was one of the very few pharmacologists in the United States with a license to manufacture Schedule I substances, and in addition to the MDMA for the MAPS studies, he made the DMT that was used in Rick Strassman's groundbreaking research in New Mexico, as well as the psilocybin that was used in Roland Griffith's Johns Hopkins studies. In 1984, the psychologist Dr. Ralph Metzner had coined the term empathogen, which means generating a state of empathy, to try and accurately reflect the effects of MDMA. Nichols was uncomfortable with that term because MDMA and other similar psychopharmacological substances were not really hallucinogenic and did more than just generate empathy, and that the pathogen part of the term was also the word for disease. In 1986, Nichols coined the term entactogen, which means to touch within, and over time, this has become an accepted and widely used term for MDMA. Throughout his career, Nichols did more than probably any other researcher in the world to help elucidate the effects that psychedelics have on the brain and behavior, and he has conducted extensive research on MDMA, psilocybin, and mescaline. He has done an enormous amount of research on LSD and contributed more to our understanding of that elusive substance than anyone on the planet, with the possible exception of Albert Hofmann and Stanislav Grof. In a 2005 article in the Village Voice, Nichols said, "When I was a little kid, I used to play with pyrotechnics. LSD is the closest I could get to a pyrotechnic molecule in the brain." Nichols has created a plethora of analogs and novel psychedelic compounds in his lab, with some of his inventions included in Sasha Shulgin's revolutionary books P-Call and T-Call. Dr. Nichols has stated that in his work he, quote, strives to find positive things, end quote, and that he has worked for decades, quote, synthesizing and studying drugs that might improve the human condition and developing medicines to help people, end quote. In addition to his work with psychedelics, Nichols has also extensively researched serotonin receptors and dopamine agonists, with the results of some of this work informing promising potential treatments for Parkinson's disease and schizophrenia. In 1993, David Nichols helped found the Heffter Research Institute, which was named after the German research pharmacologist Dr. Arthur Heffter. Heffter was the first scientist to systematically study a naturally occurring hallucinogen, and in 1897 he published a paper identifying mescaline as the psychoactive principle in the peyote cactus. The Heffter Research Institute is devoted to helping design, review, and fund studies of psilocybin at prominent research institutions in the US and Europe. Our research has explored psilocybin for the treatment of cancer-related distress and addiction, for understanding the relationship between the psychedelic experience and spirituality, and for basic science research into the physiology of brain activity, cognition, and behavior. The Heffter Institute believes that psychedelics have great unexplored potential that requires independently funded scientific research to find their best uses in medical treatment. Nichols' co-founders include some of the heavy hitters in American psychedelic research history, including Dr. George Greer, Dr. Charles Grobe, Dr. Mark Geyer, and Dr. Dennis McKenna. Since the founding of the Heffter Institute in 1993, their affiliated researchers account for 63% of the top cited articles on classic psychedelics. In June of 2012, Nichols retired from Purdue University after 38 years of service with the title of Distinguished Professor Emeritus. The David E. Nichols Papers, a collection of his research papers, notes, and publications that span his career at Purdue, were donated to the school and are currently housed in the Purdue University Archives and Special Collections. David Nichols headed south after retirement and is currently an adjunct professor at the Eshelman School of Pharmacy at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. He is affiliated with the Roth Lab at UNC, where there has been some research conducted on LSD and serotonin receptors, and he tunes in each week for their group Zoom meetings, where he is affectionately known as the Wizard. Dr. David Nichols is featured in the Pearl Institute's biography series because of his dedication for over 50 years to the research and understanding of psychedelics. His persistence and willingness to study controversial psychedelic compounds at times in our history when there was skepticism and even scorn is one of the reasons we are where we are today in our understanding about psychedelics, the brain, and behavior. The Pearl Institute is honored to present as a companion piece to this biography the following interview with the great American pharmacologist and medicinal chemist, Dr. David Nichols. This interview for our Pearl Spotlight series took place at his beautiful home in Chapel Hill, North Carolina on Wednesday, September 4th, 2024. Dr. Nichols and his wife, Psy.D, were gracious in opening up their home to us and were generous with their time. The conversation that took place that afternoon was fascinating, and Dr. Nichols shared with us stories from his life, his work, and even some of his own personal psychedelic experiences. We hope that you enjoy this interview with one of the true giants of American psychedelic history. Thank you for watching, and please remember to like this video and to subscribe to our channel.
For more information or to make a donation towards our cause, please visit our website.